Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the March 2nd meeting of the Hyde Park Planning Board. I will first note that this meeting is still authorized by New York State legislation A8591, which amends the open meetings law and allows public officers to meet virtually. Let me first confirm that each member of the board is alone or without anyone trying to influence your vote. Ms. Wasser?
I'm alone.
Ms. Weiser?
I'm alone.
Mr. Oliver?
I'm alone.
Ms. Kane?
I'm alone.
Except for your
the
dog.
dog.
Mr. Waters?
I'm alone.
Vice Chair Dexter?
I'm alone.
Thank you. Please join me as we pledge our fealty to the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first item on the agenda is a continued public hearing for Key Construction. This is an application that both I'm recused from, as well as our planning board attorney, Victoria Paladares. So I'm going to pop off. Ms. Kane, one of our alternates, will take over, and Vice Chair Dexter, or someone will just text me whenever we're ready for me to come back on. I will be back on. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Welcome, everybody. And as he said, this is the Key Construction. Kelly, welcome. I see Amy's here also. And I heard there was really good news last week from the ZBA.
Yes, there was.
Can you give us just a quick update on where we are at this point?
I can. Okay, screen.
Of course.
Just a quick, let me just run this. Sorry, all of a sudden there's so many things on the screen that it's hard to, oopsie. I'll just run this for the slide. A little bit easier for you guys to see it. So yes, you were correct in that we have had a lot of distance between the planning board because we were before the zoning board for quite some time. And we did receive the area variance last week from the ZBA. Just for everyone's reminder, this is the project. It was the office building, the 2 large storage buildings, and then the 5 smaller storage buildings on the property. There was a lot of comments that we've gotten and responded to over the kind of the life of this project. I just highlighted the Nelson Pope and the Clark Patterson Lee ones because those were the most recent comments that we had received from both of the planning board's consultants and have responded to those comments. The outstanding issues, just to kind of bring it to where we are today. One was the area variance that was issued February 24th. The second is the New York State DOT permit. So the full permit was submitted back on December 9th. We reached out to the local jurisdiction a few days ago. We haven't gotten a response back from them, but we have to believe that we should be getting responses on that review. So we're hoping that that's going to be closed soon. The Dutchess County Department of Health approval, we're complete with our submission to the Department of Health, but what happened is we had to make a change to the location of the septic system and we're waiting to complete one final perk test. It's literally the last thing, and then that should be wrapped up. New York State DEC, there were 2 issues. There was this fillet issue with how the wetland was portrayed and drawn, so it was correctly drawn on the survey. And that was corrected paper-wise. The documents were delivered to DEC this week, and so we're hoping to get those back. Sarah has those over at DEC. Within the next few days, she'll sign them, and we'll have those originals back corrected. The final permitting from DEC, we're still waiting on. We have contacted them, constantly. So I'm sure the other consultants can share that that's been a difficult time trying to get those permits back from them, but we're still waiting on DEC. This is just the area variance that was received. The survey again is getting fixed, overall site plan for you. And then these were the elevations. I think we've kind of hit everything that the board was looking for at this point. I think the only outstanding items are permits outside of the planning board. So we're hoping that the board is feeling that we're complete and perhaps ready to take action with a conditional approval.
Thank you very much for that, Kelly. Appreciate that. Before we go any further, can I get a motion to reopen the public hearing?
I make that motion, Ann Weiser.
Sorry, I'll second that. Tori Kane.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you all for that. Okay, so we have narrowed the list down, and yes, we can add all of those things in as conditions. It'd be nice if one of them got resolved before
Yeah.
we had to do that, but I believe we have all of the materials that we need. What was so just for my edification, one of my favorite words, what is a fillet? Well, I'm like,
Oh, it's the, Pete, maybe you do a better job of this, but in AutoCAD, it's how you connect the points. So instead of it being kind of an angled triangle, it's really supposed to be like a curved line, and it didn't follow the flags didn't follow the actual location of the wetland. So it needed to be a curved line versus a pointy line. So the surveyor just drew it incorrectly. So I don't know who caught it, but it was a good catch. I think Bonnie caught it, so it was a good catch.
oh, excellent. Thank you for explaining that, because I was just racking my brain trying to figure that out. But
What it is, yes.
that
Yes.
makes
Just
total
drawing.
sense, though.
Yes, yes.
And just so you know, Pete is not here tonight. He had to attend another meeting
Okay.
With one of his very large projects that they called a special meeting for. So
Okay.
normally he would have
Sure.
been here
Okay.
to field that. Okay. So let me just circle around now for Pete. I will ask for him because, and I read your response letter.
Yes.
But what I can't find anywhere is the phasing plan, and I read that you have it. Is it within the SWIP?
It's within the SWIP. Yes. Yeah, because it's really a stormwater driven phasing, it's within the SWIP.
Because and again, I am not an engineer, and that is a very large document. It has a lot of stuff in there.
Yes.
But I saw a discussion about it, and I saw that like the construction, they're to follow the phasing plan, but I couldn't actually find the phasing plan in there.
Sorry, it's generally a document, that goes with the stormwater because it's driven by the sequencing that you're going to do your erosion sediment control and your construction.
Right. Okay. And I know Pete was gonna, for the final, piece, he was definitely gonna go through and look at that. Miss Franson.
Thank you. Just to piggyback on the comment about the phasing plan, my version of the plan set has a PH1. It's called a phasing plan. Is that the same as the stormwater phasing plan, Kelly?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. So I think we may have that, but I know that Pete wanted to look at the details, and he thought that he would take care of that very quickly. I don't have many comments. I'm glad you took care of that wetland issue with the curved line, because it was something that was mismatched and now we know why. In looking at the lighting plan, you have a couple two fixtures. They're called the D fixtures. And we were trying to aim for LEDs that are 3000 Kelvin or less. And I noticed, I think the D fixtures were 3500 Kelvin. And I didn't know if it was because that particular fixture, it wasn't available, or if that's maybe just a typo. But if you could take a look at that.
Okay. So it says it's 3500 and you went 3000 or less.
Yeah, we're trying to stay 3000 and less.
Okay.
And then I had mentioned this previously, there are a couple of small hotspots in that same vicinity. You could probably eliminate possibly one fixture. It is so deeply recessed into the site, and you're not next to really anyone surrounding you. I don't think that it's imperative, but again, it might save a little on cost if you wanted to eliminate one and get that hotspot down a bit, which is around 8 or 9 foot candles. I would suggest you take a look at it, but I don't think it's something that must be done.
Okay.
Given where it's located.
Okay.
So those really are my primary comments. Also, I'll just note, yes, the ZBA did approve the area variance, and there were no conditions attached to that, because sometimes there are, and then it has to get integrated in to the plan, but that's not a concern. Lastly, with the wetland correction, the plants that we have right now, Kelly, does this have that correction in it already, or that's something that'll have to get integrated
It-
into the final
It does
plan?
not. Yeah, we'll have to
Okay.
give it to you because we wanted to give you the signed one that was signed
Okay.
by Sarah DC. So
Okay.
you'll get the signed one within the next few days.
Okay. And then with regard to, I know you're waiting for the permits, and I know it's taking a very long time with New York State DEC. You know, they're just backed up. So just to be aware, there are some conditions with regard to the turtles, landings. So ultimately, we can the planning board can grant approval, but there may be some refinements, prior to final signing based on the
Understood.
permits. So,
Understood. Yep, I understand. Okay.
so thank you. Those are my comments, Ms. Chairwoman.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Ms. Moss, do you have any comments?
There was a discussion at the Zoning Board of Appeals about some drainage where the intersection of the driveway is with 9G. And Kelly had offered to take a look at that. So I just wanted to put that out there, that there may be some minor grading changes associated, but that's like really minor.
Oh, okay. And Kelly, you're aware of that?
Yes, what the issue is at the apron right now, the way that the road is graded, when they plow the driveway, everything rolls back into the state, into 9G of the driveway.
Yep.
And what we're going to do is we're actually eliminating some impervious area there because that apron is very wide now and it's going to be narrowed down. And we were proposing to kind of crown that road, so we would have drainage going off to either side versus going on to the state. I think the comment was something like the state has a bigger issue to fix, but we were contributing to part of the problem. So to the extent that we can minimize our contribution, that's what we're trying to do. Is that fair enough, Ted? I think that's a fair. Yep. Okay.
Great. I appreciate the additional detail on that. So
Okay.
as I look around, let me ask Ms. Kane, do you have any comments at this point?
No, I don't have any comments. I appreciate how thoroughly everybody is going through things, and it looks like we're progressing well.
Thank you. Ms. Wasser, do you have any comments?
I agree. I'm looking forward to the project finalizing its approvals and that we can vote on it and move forward.
Right, sounds good. Mr. Waters?
Nothing. No, everything seems to have been taken care of. So
Great. Ms. Weiser?
No, I have no comments either, but just will agree with my colleagues that we're really looking forward to this getting off the ground.
Great. Mr. Oliver?
I have nothing new to add, and I am also excited to see some new projects going on in Hyde Park. So thank you.
Thank you.
Last but not least, Mr. Gercio.
No comments.
Great. Okay, so that must mean we're getting really close.
Good. Yes, I hope.
The less we speak, and I will echo my my colleagues' comments. Very happy that we're sitting here at this point, and that this will be a great use for that property. But I do know there are still items that need to be taken care of. So I guess let me ask Ms. Whitman, did anybody sign up for the public hearing?
No one.
All right, so no comments across the board. So from a procedural perspective, at this point, I believe we could close a public hearing, and we can allow for an additional 7 days for written comments to come in case somebody's watching and has additional comments that they want to send in. And then we can entertain a resolution at the next meeting. I see everybody nodding.
Yep, I would make a motion for that.
Could I just ask a quick question? I don't know the legality of this, and I know Victoria is conflicted, but this isn't a question, I guess, specifically related to this project. Is the board permitted to be able to vote on this tonight with the condition that we have to wait the 7 days? Or I don't know procedurally the way that this works with the 7-day public hearing requirement.
So my understanding is that part of the open meetings law amendment was that because there may be somebody who is just watching this on Facebook,
Tonight,
YouTube,
yeah.
yes, exactly. But it's part of the open meetings law for being able to hold these virtual.
Okay,
Otherwise, if we're in person, we would close and
and take action. Yep, okay,
correct.
okay.
correct.
So tonight we can close the public hearing and then, I don't know I forget your next meeting date. I think it's the 16th. So perhaps we can
Correct.
move us.
Correct.
Okay, very well. I'll be quiet then. Thank you.
And I'll just confirm, I saw you nodding, Ms. Franson, but that the resolution would be in good shape for the 16th.
Yes, I'll have a draft out to everyone in advance. And that can be reviewed and then you can take action on at your next meeting.
Okay, great. All right. So I
Thanks.
already heard somebody make a motion that we can close the public hearing, but still accept written comments for 7 days. Do I have a second?
I'll second that. Ann Weiser.
Thank you so much. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Resolution passed. The public hearing has been closed, and we will see you at our next meeting on March 16th.
Okay, very well.
And
All right.
I'm hoping that we'll get some responses from
Yeah.
one of these agencies.
I hope so too. I know we're pushing, we're becoming so annoying to them. Hopefully we're too annoying and they'll finally approve them, but okay.
Even I tried calling DEC and I couldn't get anybody to even answer the phone.
That's the one that's going to be the worst. I mean, we have
Yep.
Sarah from DEC trying to get through to her internal people at DEC. I think the other ones are going to come far sooner than that one. So,
Right.
okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much, Kelly.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Amy. Cynthia, can you grab Michael? There he is.
Already did.
Oh my goodness. That was almost
Okay.
seamless. It was like
Yeah,
magic.
already did. So thank you, Vice Chair. You have my gratitude and my admiration for getting
And I'm
through
gonna
everything there quickly.
Say goodnight.
Thank you
night.
so much, Ms.
Sorry.
Kane. We'll see you at the next meeting.
Okay,
Good night.
good
Enjoy your
night.
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 So the next item on the agenda is a
Thanks, Terry.
workshop item. No more public hearings tonight, and this is the first time to see this application. It's called Thomas Accessory Apartment. I think you've all had a chance to review the paperwork, and let me turn it over to Mr. Freeman. David, welcome. Good to see you.
Good seeing you. So I'm just going to run through a brief introduction about the project for a workshop session. This is to legalize an accessory apartment that has been in use for almost 40 years. I'm just going to go share my screen. So in 1983, Clayton Thompson, the father, applied for a two-story garage. They constructed it. The accessory apartment was constructed at the same time. I do have a copy of the building permit. There is no other paperwork after that. There's no plans. So just to kind of walk you through we are getting a variance. We are requesting working with the ZBA for an area variance. The building right now is owner occupied. So the mother essentially lives there. This is a studio apartment. It is greater than your minimum requirement for the square footage. It does meet the requirements for the percentage of house. So with that, just to kind of scroll down a little bit, within your requirements, the only one it actually doesn't meet at the moment is the requirement for an internal entrance, an internal stair, because it's a second floor. And that would be a part of the permitting process. We need to construct that. Small apartment, as I said in my notes, this would really there's not a lot of small apartments on the market right now, and this would bring one back onto the market, which would be, to my mind, a good idea. So just to talk about the project, to me, it's interesting. So this is not somebody had a garage with a second floor above it and decided to just go build an illegal apartment. This was a plan. So in 1983, the existing garage was converted to living space. The roof was extended, and this created the apartment above. So like I said, it's not, there it is. You can't really see it from the street except for the white part that there is anything there that's kind of out of the ordinary. The construction inside is definitely from 1983 and has been in use since 1983 up until about 2 years ago. It does need a little bit of updating with the yellow tiles and everything. As far as the neighborhood that is there, so this is a view to the neighbor to the south, right? It's a fenced off property. A view to the neighbor to the north, again, a fenced off property. The brick building you see there is actually the rest of the house. And then behind it is Route 9. And so when we talk about neighborhoods a little bit, right? So this is that neighborhood. This is the building. It's the second house on Pond Street on the left. It actually doesn't back up to Route 9. I didn't realize this until the other day. The apartment complex actually owns the parcel of land directly behind it. There is a larger two-family home or a two-building home within the neighborhood. Most of the remaining houses directly on that street, all of them are single-family residents, but the property to the south is owned by an apartment complex right now. It is blank. It is immediately adjacent to Route 9 and the commercial buildings that are on Route 9. So as far as fitting in with the neighborhood, like I said, as you come up to the property and if you go visit the property, I didn't know. When I've been by here, I did not know there was an apartment there. So to me, this is in 1983, the building department at the time had kind of a reputation where my sense is that go ahead and construct it and we'll work it out later. So that's all for a workshop session I need to discuss.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. I'm actually familiar with this house from walking candidates over the years in this area. I can tell you that the lady who we last spoke to, the voter, was really pleasant and nice, but I don't recall seeing a separate address for that apartment. So do you know if it has a separate address, a mailing address?
No, it doesn't. No,
I didn't think so. That's why I just listed all the voters that were in the house at the time. So let me start off with any comments. Tad, do you have any comments on this application?
No, I believe I've communicated with Mr. Freeman a couple of challenges I think he's going to have. And I think that I can look back through, if you want me to see in 1983 if this was allowed as a permitted principal use. But other than that, I think once they get through the ZBA, I think everything seems normal.
So they're going for an area or a density variance, I guess I should say.
Density, yes.
To have two dwelling units for a 0.39 acre house. So we can't
Yes.
take action until they receive that variance, which
And
is
you
why
need-
we're prepared. Go ahead.
You need to do seeker for
There
the
is no
special
se-
use.
There's a
We
special
have a
use permit.
resolution. It's a type 2 action because it
Right.
would only be one additional dwelling unit.
Okay,
So we have a resolution prepared to type the action and refer this out as required. But that's really all we're doing tonight. We're not setting a public hearing because we need to wait for the ZBA to act. Victoria, do you have any comments? Legal?
David, have you been to the ZBA yet?
Oh, we did their workshop session 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so you have a public hearing scheduled.
Yes.
Okay. That's it. That's the biggest hurdle that I see is that the project cannot move forward without a variance.
David, did you find out if there was a water meter?
No, there's not. So I do have to correct my drawings for that. It is on private well.
Okay, so
No.
is one of the requirements still that there be a water test for an accessory apartment? I'll have to look that up. You might need to
It's-
do a water test.
That's fine.
Okay,
We will
then-
also be referring the application to the Dutchess County Department of Behavioral and Community Health tonight.
Right.
So they can look at water and sewer as well.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you said this had a building permit. I read that in the materials, but the building permit there was never a CO issued on it, is what it looks like.
Correct.
Okay.
So
There was never an anticipated apartment. It was an addition.
Mr. Freeman seems to be a specialist in representing applications like this these days.
I will, I've been around a long time. I've worked in Hyde Park a long time. I am sure the apartment was anticipated. It may not have been documented. Just, going into this project, there was a set of architectural drawings that showed everything because it is so well detailed. The way that roof continues up, there was an architect involved that figured it out.
We'll see if we can't assist the owners with this through the process. Let me start with my board members. Mr. Waters, any comments?
No comments, not really. It looks like it was done originally by, like David said, a architect, and it was, I don't know the background of it, but until the zoning gets to it and sees if there's variances approved, there's nothing. Looks fine.
Thank you, Rob. Ms. Weiser?
I have no additional questions, so thank you.
Vice Chair Dexter?
Believe it or not, this is in my former backyard, and I used to walk down this road all the time. So I remember this house well, and again, it looks really well done from way back when. And so I'm glad to see that we're just trying to clean everything up and get it code compliant.
Perfect, thank you, Ann. Mr. Garcia, comments? I think you said none, but you're muted, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna take it as. Mr. Oliver, comments?
No comment at this time. Thank you.
And Ms. Wasser?
No, it looks good. I just want to confirm this is owner occupied when it's completed, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And
And
I also
that
have
will be
no
a
comments.
continuing condition of the special use permit, that
Right.
it continue to be owner occupied.
It was really to make sure the applicant understood that was required. So otherwise, I'm glad it's happening.
And I have no additional comments because this looks like a really easy application to me. Although I guess we'll wait to hear if there are any neighbors who comment, because recently a density variance was denied because of a variety of reasons, but that included overwhelming objections. So we have a resolution prepared tonight, and I believe this will be introduced by Mr. Oliver.
Yep. A resolution classifying the action and referring the application to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development and the Dutchess County Department of Behavioral and Community Health, Thompson Accessory Department. Resolution number 2022-06, whereas. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board hereby, 1, classifies the project as a type 2 action under secret. 2, directs its secretary to refer the site plan to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development pursuant to section 239M of the general municipal law. And 3, directs its secretary to refer the site plan to the Dutchess County Department of Behavioral and Community Health.
Thank you. Is there a second?
John Garcia, seconds.
Thank you, John. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Ms. Moss has a
Aye.
question.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yes.
The question about the water supply, the property card indicates that this is in Dutchess County Water and Wastewater. Is that right?
Yes.
So if it's in the water district, and I don't know that the card is correct, should we also send to DCWWA?
I thought we didn't see any neighboring properties that were in the district there. Like it's not being charged in the district on the property card. It may just be incorrect. All the other joining homes were on wells.
Okay, thank you.
And I think that, yes, Ms. Franson.
The living area and the loft, because you referred to it as a studio apartment, but that it's 1 bedroom. Are you using the loft or the living area for the bedroom?
They're using the loft area. There's an upper area that they use as the bedroom area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. So the resolution was voted on successfully. I didn't ask if there were any nays or abstentions, but I saw everybody raised their hand except for Ann. I think you said yes anyway, Ms. Dexter. Yep. Okay. So the motion carries. And do you want to go ahead and set up? I didn't schedule this to set a public hearing, but if the ZBA they've already been to the ZBA once, I assume they set a public hearing, Mr. Freeman, for this.
Yes.
So do you want to
March
go ahead? and
23rd is their public hearing.
Yeah, do we want to set a public hearing to start on April I believe it's the 5th
6th.
tonight?
The 6th.
The 6th, yeah.
Yes, may I get a motion to set this
Wow.
public hearing for April 6th?
I'll make that motion and Dexter.
I'll second. Chris Oliver.
Thank you, Chris. All in favor, please raise your hand, say aye.
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 Any abstentions? There being none, that motion passes too. So, Mr. Freeman, David, we'll see you when you're through with the ZBA. I assume you'll be through with the ZBA.
I hope so.
Good
right,
luck,
thank
then.
you.
Thank you. Have a nice
Have a
night.
good night.
David.
The next item on the agenda is a new application. This is being called for now East Park Deli and Grocery. Mr. Milliken, the architect who's representing the applicant, and we actually met with him, I believe, pre-COVID. And then COVID kind of put this on halt, et cetera. So it's exciting that it's come back. For those who may be watching at home or for who've here a long time, it's currently known as Krausers. There's been a discussion about maybe changing the name or maybe keeping the name. So as long as we have a firm decision, Mr. Milliken, before we close the public hearing and take action, we'll work that through down the line. So let me turn this over to Mr. Milliken. Good to see you again, Drew.
How's it going, everybody? Should I share?
You're welcome to share screens. Yep.
Okay. So this plan shows the layout of the site, and the only really the site improvements would be the restriping the parking, which the stripes are kind of faded, and it would include denoting a dedicated accessible spot and creating some landscaping in the front alongside the sidewalk. But the main focus here is is making the front of the building more presentable. If you've seen the building lately, this is what it looks like now. And so we think that, dressing it up would be a good thing for the town. So that's basically all his goal is, just to dress up the front of the building and to bring the front of the site in better compliance with current regulations. That's pretty much it. With using colors and shapes that are similar to other buildings in the area. There's a gas station next door, mobile station. There's a drugstore across the street. So the idea is to have the building blend in better with the surrounding area.
Drew, do you have the new freestanding sign on this set of plans? I believe you do. Could you show us that?
Yeah, if you can see that in the corner there. I don't know if it's behind photos or
Behind my
anyway.
photos on my screen.
It's over on the right-hand side of my screen behind everybody's picture.
Let me
But,
then just state that there's going to be a new freestanding sign that will also come into conformance with the sign code.
That's right. Using it in the same position, because we considered other positions, but there are road signs on the southern side of the property that wouldn't make it practical to move the sign away from the mobile sign. So we're doing the best we can with the space we have.
Thank you. One
But
thing
yes,
I'll
the
note.
idea is to
Go ahead.
the idea is to create a new, more presentable freestanding sign.
I think that you succeeded because both the sign and the building exterior are all new and improved, I believe, over time. I also appreciate the fact that the owner has kept his interest in investing in this property in Hyde Park, and that you've taken a look at other properties around there to try to create a more harmonious look with the colors. One thing I'll note before I go to our colleagues is I believe you have 15 parking spaces shown, but only 11 are required. Is there a reason why you want to have as many as you do?
That's just a general interest in, satisfying any, anticipated customer load, that's all.
What this board's practice in the past has been that if someone's requesting more parking than what we establish in our code, we do what's called land banking of parking. So instead of being striped, it's just shown as land banked. And then if you feel like that if you have documentation that you need more parking, then you would just go to Ms. Moss and say, I'm going to stripe this out. That way you
I
don't
see.
have to consider it to be necessarily parking at the beginning. In all the years I've lived here, which is 28 now, I haven't seen that parking area completely crowded. That's the reason why I said that. Let me start with Ms. Moss. Tad, do you have any comments?
Yes, I believe the applicant is already aware that the property is in a 100-year floodplain. I believe that the elevation of the ground is very close to the BFE. But we don't have an elevation for the building. I don't know if the owner would desire to have an elevation. I think it would be a good thing for them to have because it might affect their flood insurance. And I believe I see some tanks in the back. They will need tie downs. That's something that I don't think we've talked about before. And because it's improving a site in sort of a redevelopment way, Pete and I are trying to work with Drew to figure out how to make some upgrades to the stormwater with potentially some green infrastructure.
Green infrastructure would be nice there. Thank you. And can you explain for anyone in the audience what you meant by the VLE?
BFE?
BFE.
The BFE is the base flood elevation. That's supposed to be the mapped or modeled elevation of the water surface in a 100-year flood. And I wish we had more data after DOT did their improvements on Violet Avenue, but we don't. So I'm not positive whether this building is actually in the floodplain or not. It is mapped currently in the floodplain, and it could be possible depending on what the elevation of the grade, the lowest opening for the building and the grade of the land around it. It could possibly be not in the 100-year floodplain. That's how close this is in elevation, or I believe it is in elevation. I'm even wondering if he could get it out, listed as out of the elevation, out of the BFE.
The map describes the BFE at 231.
Yes.
And the surveyor, I believe, labeled.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Finished floor elevation. Let's see if we can zoom in here.
I didn't see that. Thank you.
It's 232.11.
So 232.11,
All right.
232.9 according to the finished floor elevation. There's a small
Okay.
dip toward the catch basin. You're right, it's very close, but the map doesn't seem to totally agree with other data. So
Good. So then he's probably not subject to it. And is there a basement?
no,
Or is it-
no.
No. Okay.
Thank you, Tad. That was illuminating. Ms. Polidoro, any comments?
Hi, just to note, this would be a type 2 action under SECRA. And due to its location on 9G, the site plan would have to be referred to Dutchess County Planning Department.
Thank you. Then let me start with my colleagues. Ms. Wasser, comments?
Yeah, first of all, I'm delighted to see this facelift. I was just in there today, actually, so I am paying close attention. I had just a very few comments on the parking spaces, the 3 that are parallel to the street, up there in the top of your drawing.
Mhm.
I would not even sure I'd want them land banked because people backing out of them are going to interfere with the entrance and exit opening. I'm not sure that's a great layout for those 3 spaces. Unless you want to put 1 or 2 in there parallel parked to the parallel with your sign.
I understand. Yeah, I understand.
Okay, and then in the planting bed along Violet Avenue, it says at approximately 30-inch maximum height. You know what? I'm good. The 5'0" refers to a different dimension there. Never mind. So that was it, and I can't wait to see it done.
Thank you. Vice Chair Dexter, comments?
I would echo that I'm very excited to see this upgraded, and we'll just make a nice addition because it's almost the last one, if not the last one, to get an upgrade or facelift of all those commercial buildings. So yeah, and nice job. I like very subtle changes. It's not going to look drastically different, but it'll just fit in so nicely through there. So thank you.
Great.
Thank you. Mr. Waters?
Nothing at this time. Actually, everybody's hit all the key points.
Thank you, Rob. Mr. Gertzio? I can't see John.
You need to unmute.
Can we have our screen back?
Oh, sorry.
Thanks.
Unmute. The only comment I have is when I remember that place when it was built and the flooding in the parking lot. And to me, I think that's just like a dry well there in the center of the parking lot. So I don't know if you're going to address the drainage there, because I remember that flooding out and becoming a lake.
Interesting. The current owner has had no experience with flooding there, from what
It wasn't like a
told me.
flood. It just becomes a little pond if it's heavy rain. I don't know it's been a while since I've paid any attention, to be honest with you. I live down the road from there. But I would just be wary of that. Check it out. I don't know where the water's going in that catch basin.
Mhm.
Thank you, John. It's helpful to have someone who lives nearby and goes by periodically to have that kind of historic information. I made a note to contact Pete Sotero, and also that Tad and Pete are trying to work with the applicant to create more some sort of green detention or something, I would imagine, to keep the post-development runoff the same as pre-development. So let me continue on. Mr. Oliver, comments?
Other than thanking the applicant for reinvesting in our town and making that building look, in my opinion, 100% better. No, thank you very much.
Thank you. And Ms. Weiser?
I won't be saying anything different. I think it's just really wonderful, though, that the owner, the applicant is going ahead to make these improvements. It means a lot to us. I like Stephanie's idea about the parallel parking. I think that's a good solution for a possible traffic issue. But thank
I
you.
understand.
So that's up to me now, and I will agree with, I think it's why it always works better if we have many eyes on these projects, because I kept looking at those parking stalls thinking something looks wrong there. And then as soon as Stephanie said, when you back out, you may be in conflict with anybody else backing out. It's true. Not that I expect to see accidents there, but since there's already too many, I would suggest that they at least consider banking those three spaces for the time being. Let's see what happens. The other thing to note is that I don't believe I saw an area dedicated to snow storage, Drew. We need to have something to label where you're going to put snow. I think you're putting it to the right of the building in that grassed area.
Correct.
So
Yeah, it's noted on the, it's a recent addition to the plan, yes.
Okay, thank you. Oh, you know what? I haven't looked at your revision. I'm sorry. That's why. Okay.
Yeah.
I looked at this originally.
I
So
understand.
other than that, I don't have any other comments either. I made the comment at the very beginning that I appreciate the owner taking the time and the interest to continue this application moving forward, yours as well. Please thank Mr. Singh. And we have a resolution prepared. So I believe this will be introduced by Ms. Wasser. Stephanie?
Yes, thanks. East Park Deli and Grocery, March 2nd, Resolution 2022-07. Whereas Now, therefore, be it resolved that the planning board hereby, 1, classifies the project as a type 2 action under seeker. 2, directs its secretary to refer the site plan to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development pursuant to section 239M of the general municipal law.
Second, Ann Dexter.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And now make it a motion. Rob, would you make a motion to set a public hearing for April 6th for this application?
Yes, Rob Waters makes a motion to set the public hearing for the East Park Deli, AKA Krausers, for April 6th, 2022.
I second that. Ann Weiser.
Thank you, Ann. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously as well. Thank you, colleagues. And thank you, Mr. Milliken. We'll see you back on the 6th. That way we'll have time, we hope to, we hope, we'll have time to have heard back from county planning, and we'll take any public comment that night.
Great,
And just a
great.
quick note, that may be our last time to meet by Zoom. The executive order expires midnight, March 16th. So we won't be going on till midnight, I can assure you. But at the meeting, in other words, in April, those may be held back in town hall. For that matter, that's what I would anticipate. We'll make sure that all the applicants know and their consultants. Okay. Thank you, Drew. It's good to see you. Have a nice night.
Bye, everybody.
Take care. Good night.
The next item on the agenda is Nichols Oxygen Service. I don't think John was on or Rob when we originally approved this. This is located at 1564 Route 9G, which is pretty far north on 9G. It's on the east side of the road. Mr. Nichols had a new tenant to sell some used cars. At the same time, DOT wanted him to make some changes to the entry. He's started substantial construction because he's done a bunch of the things that were conditions that were required. One thing he did not do yet, though, was the DOT improvements. So before he was going to ask for an extension of time in which to complete construction, but Cynthia wisely discovered that we could actually apply the tolling periods we've been doing under COVID to this application. I want to point out that thanks to Cynthia, that actually saves Mr. Nichols $500, I believe is the cost.
Nice.
So
Nice job.
thank you, Cynthia, for taking care of our residents and our people.
Nice.
You're welcome.
Anybody have any questions on this resolution? Then Vice Chair Dexter is going to introduce it.
Resolution applying tolling period for Nichols Oxygen Service. Resolution number 2019-07D. Whereas, now therefore be it resolved that the planning board hereby applies the tolling period to the project so that substantial construction must be completed by October 21st, 2022.
I second that. Ann Weiser. And my dog.
Thank you.
He thirds it.
Thank you to Eddie as well. I saw a little paw in my head going up. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. And now I get to introduce the next resolution. This is a resolution to appoint Chris Oliver as the second vice chair. Just so everybody knows, again, the board selects its own vice chairs. The town board selects the actual chair. But I think for 5 years, we had both Bob Groninger and Dexter as vice chairs.
Oh,
And
it was
just
longer
makes it-
than that, I think.
Was it really? I can't remember.
Yeah, it just made sense. It was really good.
Well, we had an occasion, as you will recall, where Chris had to run a portion of a meeting that I was recused from, Key Interiors, and Ann wasn't there that night. She had family issues, so we had to go through a little bit of a rigmarole for Chris to actually run that section. This will prevent that from now on, so long as one of the three of us is present. So I will introduce resolution. Do we have a number on this one yet? Sorry.
22B.
22B.
22B, and urge its adoption, designating planning board second vice chairman for the year 2022. Now be it resolved that Chris Oliver be designated as the second vice chairperson of the planning board, authorized to conduct meetings of the planning board and to sign final plats and related documents, including invoices and correspondence on behalf of the planning board in the absence of the chairperson.
Happy to second. And Dexter.
All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Any abstentions? Chris, are you abstaining because you don't want to vote for yourself?
Yeah.
Okay, let's
I
mark that. It's only a 6-1. It's only a 6-1, but thank you, Chris, for agreeing.
Yeah,
And
thank
as
you
we've
so
all
much.
said, when I watched you on YouTube, I was like, he absorbed it all through osmosis over the years. He knows just what he's doing. So this will make it
Well,
easy.
thank you all very much. It's an honor. So thank you.
Thank you.
And that brings me to the end of the meeting. May I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, John Garcia.
Second, Rob Waters.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 And thank you to the supervisor and town board for providing the resources to have this show broadcast. And it looks as though, as I said, we'll have one more of these before we'll be back in public, but that's okay. I'm eager to see all your faces again in real life. So
No mask.
no mask. Everyone
Unless you
have a
want it.
nice night. Take care.
Bye.
Good night. Good evening.